tight till the end for sure. Nottingham Forest boss Nuno Espirito Santo there talking to us live after that 1-1 draw at Palace last night. Let's welcome in Max Scott. Max, man. Any time of the season, going away to Palace and getting a draw was probably a decent result.
Yeah.
But under these circumstances, was that a must-win game last night? Is that a massive opportunity gone?
I tell you what, it felt like the loss at home to Brentford was bigger, because you're right, going away to Crystal Palace, this Crystal Palace side are FA Cup finalists who've got some serious operators in that squad. I thought Forest back four really kept Mateta quiet, happy to see Nketiah come on.
Yeah.
So there's lots of positives about it, but I think in the context of having lost against Brentford, when it was a must-win game, we really needed 3 points. But having said that, 3 games left. We have to play Chelsea and then Leicester and West Ham, which you'd say Forest should be favourites in. So it is still in our hands technically. So I try, Flex, I'm in this sort of this state of flux where I try to say 3 games left. If at the start of the season you just said you got to win the last 3 games to get Champions League, I'd have taken it. But then I switched to, well, we weren't. We've been third all season.
You've been cruising, yeah.
You
don't have to be
Troy
in this.
Deeney, I love him, and he said on comms, when we beat United at home, he said on comms, that is Champions League confirmed.
He's jinxed it. Oh, I
said
know.
That,
Troy.
And when he said it,
jinxed it.
and I keep reminding him of it, but it's just a sickener that it's not in that. We're not almost confirmed already.
The form in the last, like I said, 1 win in the last 5. Is it fatigue? Is it just running out of steam after such an incredible season? Like you said, pretty much been comfortably third for most of it. Or is there a bit of inevitability about once that pressure ramped up and City got their act together, Chelsea getting their act together, Newcastle, once those... I'm not going to be disrespectful here, teams that are probably more used to being in that area of the pitch, that area of the table.
Yeah.
Once they started to get a bit of form, is it you guys feeling that level of pressure? Because it's not, like you said, draws don't really cut it when you're going up against these type of teams for the top 5.
Yeah, it's a really good question, but it's a really difficult one to answer. My guess is, I think it's a mixture of the fact that they're knackered. The players are incredibly tired.
They've been
we don't have a huge squad. And if you look at the bench, Ramon Sousa, Jota Silva, Willy Bolly, with the greatest respect, they're not players that get you over the line in a race for Champions League. They're the players that get you out of a relegation scrap. Right, which is ultimately was where Forest have been.
Yeah.
But because the starting 11,
squad was built for.
maybe 13 of the players have exceeded expectation and created this sort of fabulous team spirit, which means that they're able to do what they do, defend incredibly well until recently, get counter-attacking goals and hold out. I think it's a mixture of the fact that there is an element of fatigue, but also couple that with the pressure, right? I think that psychologically that's a lot for this team that have never been there. In a generation never been there. So it's really difficult to watch when we've been so close. I feel like a climber sort of hanging on by my fingertips at the top of a cliff edge, and I really don't know which way it's going to go.
But when I'm looking at it, right, so you got Newcastle and Chelsea.
Mate, whenever I close my eyes at night, I see the top half of the Premier League table.
There's a lot that can go your way. I mean, Newcastle United and Chelsea are on the same points, right? And you're 2 points behind them. I'm going to set this up for you. Mm-hmm. A draw at St James's Park with Chelsea and Newcastle. And with Chelsea and Newcastle, right?
Yeah.
That would set you up nicely because you make sure you beat, I know it's a derby, but make sure you do what you're supposed to do against Leicester, mate. They're terrible.
Yeah.
You're supposed to dust them down. Let's have it right.
And if we don't deserve it.
You don't deserve it.
No, of course. And there's an element of that after the Brentford game. I felt like, well, if you're going to be a club that gets to the Champions League, you have to beat Brentford at home.
Yeah.
Where we've been so strong, under the lights, atmosphere, it was pumping, and it just didn't come off. So, look, if we don't beat Leicester, you can call it a season and say, well played, you've had a good season, but you didn't have the minerals to get it done.
Really? You want Chelsea to lose against
I think so, because we've got Chelsea on the last game of the season.
You've got Chelsea, and if you win, then you'll go above Chelsea anyway. Then if you beat West Ham, you just need to get a draw.
It's as simple as this. We've got 3 games left and we have to win them all. And I think the key thing is getting to that Chelsea game where it's at home on a Sunday at the City ground last game of the season, and it essentially becomes a playoff final for the Champions League. But you've got to get through Leicester, which should be incredibly easy.
That's got to be a formality, yeah.
And then going away to West Ham, they seem sort of in disarray. They don't really have an identity at the minute.
Yeah.
But equally, in the sort of form that we're in, you cannot say going away to West Ham is an easy game.
No, I wouldn't say that.
They've got players that can punish you. So, look, I want nothing more than Forest to do it, because I think that it's about time we had another club that isn't expected to be there get there and upset the apple cart.
What if, and I don't want to be pessimistic here, but say you don't get it, right? But you do get Europa League. You do finish where you are now, 6th.
Yeah.
That's still incredible. Well, even any form of European football, because at the start of the season, I know it's hard to rewind back to your mentality at the beginning of the season because you've been so good all year.
Yeah.
But it is a testament to yourselves that actually you're looking at it like, if we don't get this Champions League, I'm fuming with that.
Yeah. Look, I wouldn't let not getting Champions League qualification take away from the joy of
and FA Cup semi-final
that this club has given to the City this year, and the fact that we would still be going to Europe.
Yeah.
The reality is, I think we need one more point
to guarantee Europa
guaranteed
your conference or
one of those, right?
That'd be massive.
I get to follow my club like my dad did around Europe.
Yeah.
You cannot put a price on that. And so I think it's possible to have a nuanced approach to this and to say, I can feel two things at once.
Yeah.
I can be severely disappointed that, if it's the case, that Forest didn't qualify for the Champions League because we were there for so long, yet still be proud and joyous and excited about the prospect of some form of European football. So whether that's Conference League, whether that's Europa League, I'm sure, after a couple of bevies at the airport, when we're going on our first trip to Wembley, all will be forgotten. And there's an argument to say, and I'm only talking like this, Flex, because it feels like it's slipping away from us. I still believe we can do it.
Yeah.
Still believe we've got the grit, the determination, the togetherness, the culture to do it. But if we don't, it's still an amazing season.
Great season, especially, look, Manchester City spent £180 million in January to fix their problems, to say, right, the league's gone, but we're making sure we get in this top 4.
Look at what Villa
top
did
5
as well.
Villa, look at the January they had. Chelsea are just Chelsea. They've bought loads of players.
I saw a stat come out today. Chelsea in the history of the Premier League have spent £1 billion more than any other team.
Look at that. So that's who your potential, and Newcastle United, a lot of heavy investment, fantastic
and this
team
was
as well.
I lost my train of thought a minute ago. The point is, if we get Europa League, and I know it's easy to say this because it's a bit more retrospectively, but if we do, with the greatest respect to you and Spurs, if you boys can get to the final, then there's a real argument that Forest can compete in the Europa League.
Yeah, especially if you get, by getting into it, how much you're going to strengthen after what you've done this year. Yeah, with Forest being an attractive proposition.
And for any Forest fan that's listening, sort of maybe thinking, Max, you're just writing Forest off. I'm not. I really believe in this team, but I'm just looking at the last 3 or 4 games, and it's clear for everybody to see there's been a shift. And I guess I'm just sort of trying to think about it from a different perspective, and I'm trying to prepare myself mentally for if Forest don't get Champions League, and to try to look at it and say, come on, look at what we've achieved as a club this season. Look how far we've come from bottom of the Championship a few years ago when Steve Cooper took over to talking about European football.
For these next 3 games, is there anything different Nuno can do personnel-wise? Or is it just, this is like man management bag? This is get into them, tell them how great they are, how well they've done this year, just find it within them, the man management vibe? Or is it actually, if I tweak this, put this player there, don't overthink it?
I'm not going to tell Nuno how to do his tactics. The only thing I think that mistake he made was not starting Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga for the full game against Manchester City. That I thought was a little bit of a mistake, but I could understand why he did that at Wembley against City, who were an absolutely wonderful side. What I would say is, I would want Nuno to just trust the process. What he's invested in this team and what they've given him back, he should be saying, I think he will be saying, I believe in you boys. Look at what we've done this season. More of that, please. And I just want, I think Morgan Gibbs-White, I want to see him step up. I want to see Ryan Yates step up. I want to see Chris Wood step up. He's
Could be his last 3
well-loved
games.
senior member of that squad. and I think he needs to come up with a big moment and score a goal, and I believe it can happen.
Listen, mate, I'm definitely rooting for you as a neutral who, I want to go against all them teams, and my team's been a measly old crappy team this year.
That's
rooting
pure
for
fabrication.
Thank you, mate.
It's the truth. We have been a crappy team this year. I am rooting for you, so hopefully you do it. I'm pretty sure most of the Premier League would agree with that.
I hope so
as well. Right,
That's
you guys
pure
are
fabrication.
listening to talkSPORT 2 Social.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.